Welcome to Change It Up Radio here with Paula Shaw. It's so good to have you all with me. We've got a very special show today. I'm calling this show Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. And that is the real story, guys. Everything that we're experiencing outside is a result of what's going on inside. And my guest today is somebody you don't want to miss. My guest is Dr. Steve Taubman, and he is an expert on helping people change their mind to change their lives. And he's got some really fun stuff that's informative, that can really help you make a difference in your life. So stay with us to hear my interview with Dr. Steve Taubman. So just backing up a second, welcome to Change It Up Radio. I'm Paula Shaw, and as most of you know who follow this show, I am an author. I have 3 books: Chakras, the Magnificent 7, Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. I'm also a speaker and a life transition coach. So in my work is really all about change, right? It's all about helping people who are dealing with the upheaval of change. And those people are going through something that I often call a love-hate relationship. You know, we need change in order to help us grow, in order to keep life interesting. But we hate the discomfort of the unfamiliar. Humans just like things to be same and predictable and familiar. But that doesn't take us to the biggest reaches of what we can experience in life. We got to have change. And with change, of course, always comes loss, because something's got to go if something new is coming in. And so in that process, people often need help. They need help dealing with how to get comfortable with the new normal. Everybody's talking about the new normal now, right? And for a lot of us, that new normal doesn't feel quite right. I just spent 5 days in Carmel, and I still find myself a little bit shocked every time I walk out into the streets and everyone is wearing masks. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's a beautiful thing that everyone is wearing masks, because we're doing it for each other. It's a sign of solidarity. It's a sign of caring about each other, and I'm all for it. But there's something about seeing people in masks that, at least for me, brings up pictures of movies I've seen where the air is bad now, you know, and people are endangered and that sort of thing. And so that's what gets triggered in my mind. That's one of those patterns of thought, I guess. I'll have to ask Dr. Steve about that. But isn't it funny? When I see a street full of people wearing masks, I'm sure there's a movie or something I saw somewhere in time that connected masks with like some huge catastrophe or something on the earth, you know? And so I think that we all need help at certain times in dealing with change. It's a mixed blessing, isn't it? You know, I mean, on the one hand, we gotta have it. Life would be really boring without it. On the other hand, it requires work from us. Oftentimes it requires help from a professional, help from friends, help from someone who makes us feel more comfortable with the change, or helps us learn how to cope with it better. And one of the things I loved in doing my homework on Dr. Steve, in many ways, he's sort of like a male version of me. I mean, he believes a lot of the same things I believe. He helps people using mindfulness, using techniques, hypnosis, and other techniques that give you the tools you need to help you shift more comfortably into the change. And most of you who know me know that I use a lot of the tools of energy psychology. I'm also a meditator. I'm a Reiki master. I believe in that it's a whole body mind thing that's going on here. And yet, Dr. Steve uses different tools than I use. And I'm really excited for him to share with you today some of the things that he does in his work. Because one of the things both he and I know and believe is that if you're not experiencing in your outer life what you really want to experience, the place to look is not out there. That casting blame on someone or something or some circumstance really isn't going to change your life. The place to look is inside. The place to look is, what do I believe? What am I doing? What am I thinking? And I've talked many times on this show about limiting beliefs and limiting patterns. And we know that those come from the inside. And too often they're formed from trauma. They're formed, they're based on survival. And they live in the subconscious mind. And as we have talked about before, the conscious mind is only about 5% of the mind functioning. 95% of what's going on is subconscious. So we've got the elephant and we've got the flea. And most of us are trying to run our lives with the flea, with this little bit that's conscious. Dr. Steve works with people through hypnosis, getting into that subconscious. I work with the tools of energy psychology. And as most of you know too, I use neurofeedback or muscle testing to help find out what lives in that subconscious mind. And so often we have no idea what we believe. The only way we can get any clue is to see what's happening in the outer world. For example, if you were to notice that every time you see a dog, when you're walking down the street, you start experiencing anxiety and fear, and you don't feel comfortable, it could very well be that there's a limiting subconscious belief that you're holding that dogs are dangerous. And so then you would want to do some work on shifting that belief so that you could fully function in your life in a world where there are many dogs. And it's the same thing with beliefs about money or success or how you should be handling your career. So we're totally impacted by those limiting beliefs. And the tricky part is they're subconscious. So you don't know they're happening here in the conscious thinking mind. I'll give you an example of a client I worked with once. This woman came to me and I said, so what's not working in your life? What can I help you with? And she said, I seem to have radar for every narcissistic, self-centered guy out there. I just keep finding them time after time after time. Sometimes they look completely different. They present themselves completely differently, but they're always the same guy. And I said, I'm wondering if you're holding a belief that you don't deserve to be treated beautifully and respectfully by a man, and that you don't deserve a man to give to you and want you to share in the joy of the relationship. And she said to me, well, that's ridiculous. I know I deserve to be treated well. That's why I'm here. That's what I'm talking to you about. And so then we did what's called neuromuscular feedback or muscle testing. Some of you have seen it done where an arm is extended and then on a yes or a strong, if you're resonating with something, this would be strong. If you're not resonating with it, then this would go weak. So I asked her if we could muscle test her, and she said, sure. And so I had her say, I believe I don't deserve to be treated beautifully and respectfully by a man. And her arm was as strong as the Rock of Gibraltar. And she looked at it and said, well, what is that? What does that mean? And I said, that means you're resonating with that belief. You're holding that belief. You do believe it. And she was floored and kind of appalled. But then I said, but don't worry, because the work we're going to do is going to shift that belief. And then we're going to program a positive belief, like I have value and worth and deserve to be treated beautifully in a relationship. And that is exactly the work that we did. And that's primarily what I do in my private practice with clients. I help them find those limiting beliefs or those limiting patterns, the things that are keeping them stuck in what they don't want, not what they want. And then we work to shift them so that they can be performing more successfully, more happily, and feeling just better about their life. So the male version of me, Dr. Steve, will be coming on very shortly, and he's going to talk to us about the tools and processes he uses to help people do that same thing, to change their mind, change the way the mind is working. And by the way, if you want to learn more about Change It Up Radio or about my practice, you can find information about me at paulashaw.com and information about this show and archived past shows, because we've got a lot of great shows you may want to listen to. And all of that is available, as well as information about being a guest on this show or a sponsor of this show. You can find all of that on changeitupradio.com. All right, I will be back in just a moment with Dr. Steve Taubman. All right, and for the Facebook live stream viewers, we aren't really going to a commercial break because due to COVID, we're not in the studio as we normally would be. But all of that will be put in after I send this to my sound engineer. So right now I am going to come back just as though we had just come back from a commercial break. So you're kind of behind the scenes with the way we're doing radio these days. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio here with Paula Shaw. I am very excited about this segment of the show because, as promised, I am going to be introducing you to Dr. Steve Taubman. And let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him on. Dr. Steve Taubman is a best-selling author and world-class speaker who's dedicated his life to showing people how to thrive through challenges. He's written extensively on the application of contemplative practices in stressful situations and spoken worldwide on mindset mastery for goal-oriented helping professionals. Having endured crippling anxiety and low self-esteem early in his own life, Dr. Taubman made it his mission to understand the nature of happiness and the remedy for emotional turmoil. His search led him to neurology, holistic health, mindfulness, positive psychology, and hypnosis. And we will be hearing all about that very shortly. His best-selling book, Unhypnosis, is one of his books. And he has a sales mastery program called The Magic of Inner Selling. His online productivity piece is called Procrastination Annihilation. I love that title, and I'll be asking him about that. And his upcoming book is called Bulletproof. So I think if you're not excited, I'll be excited for all of us about meeting and talking to Dr. Steve Taubman. Steve, please join us.
I'm excited.
Yay! Well, that's
Wow,
two
what
of
a
us.
wonderful, what, I've been sitting in the background listening to the first segment of your show, and it's been wonderful. And you're right, I am kind of a male version of you, or you're a female version of it. And so we're going to have a lot to talk about. And you mentioned a few of my books, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of that a little bit later.
Yes.
But I appreciate the that kind of broad introduction. I know it makes it sound like I can't hold a job, but I will.
And I forgot to tell them about the rave reviews you get in the, well, of course, things have changed now, but you do a lot of live work at corporate conferences and that sort of thing too, don't you?
I do for many years now. I think, well, you and I are mutual friends of the wonderful Nikki Keohou,
Yes, we are.
owner of the Direct Selling Women's Alliance. And I've spoken on a few occasions to the DSWA back in the day.
Mhm.
I think I was one of the last people to share a stage with Zig Ziglar. And I think that was at the DSWA maybe about
Ah,
15 years ago. So I travel and I speak, and I also do smaller events, and I also do the one-on-one work like what we were talking about. How do you break through those mental barriers and create change? And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun things to say about that.
oh, we certainly are. So, how about let's start with this, Steve. Tell our listeners what's the core of your work because you work with resilience, you work with helping people break through blocks. There's so many beautiful aspects of your work, but I know that at the core of it all is whatever's going on inside here is going to manifest in the exterior life, right?
Yes. So, before I became what I am now, I was a chiropractor for a number of years, and I was running a very successful holistic health practice.
Mm-hmm.
And in chiropractic and in any form of holistic healthcare, what we understand that allopathic medicine doesn't seem to understand is that health is a natural birthright, that we have the
Yeah.
capacity to express, that the power and energy that made the body can heal the body.
Yes.
So when we're doing the kind of work that we did on the physical level, what we were doing is removing barriers, removing obstacles so that the brain could communicate with the body and the body could communicate with the brain. And many of those obstacles would be structural in the spine because that's the kind of conduit for the
Yeah.
spine work. Well, when I started working in the area of mindfulness and the area of hypnosis, it became very clear very quickly that what I was now becoming was a mental chiropractor, right?
I
So
love that. Okay, tell us more about
So
that.
the core of the work is understanding that we all possess what in chiropractic we call innate intelligence, the innate capacity for energy and information to flow, and for
Right.
us to manifest greatness and wonderful and amazing things, and to be joyful and loving and have a sense of humor and to live and manifest health and all of those great gifts that are available to us. But something's in the way, something's blocking it.
Right.
If you're not healthy, it's because something's blocking that. So in chiropractic, the inquiry is what's blocking it physically?
Mm-hmm.
In hypnosis and in mindfulness work, the question is what's blocking it mentally and spiritually?
Right.
Right? Where is the energy being held back? What is it that, as you said so eloquently, what is it about your belief systems that's keeping you stuck in a particular lifestyle, a set of behaviors, a set of emotions? And one of the things that we realize is that our beliefs and all the emotions that we live with, they are we are all junkies. We're all addicted to our emotions, and we're addicted to our thoughts.
Yes.
We've become so completely habituated to the way it is that we don't realize that there's so many other ways it could be. And as you
Mm-hmm.
again pointed out, we're only seeing a very, very small piece of overall reality at any one moment. So I
Right.
often will say, our conscious mind, what we're using right now to speak with each other, what you all in the audience are using to listen to us right now, you're listening to it through a very small hole, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
small hole is, you'll take in what is consistent with what you already believe, and you'll miss a lot that you're not already believing, or you'll reject
Yes.
what you're not believing. And
Right.
so, what you don't realize about this is that our conscious mind is only capable of processing about 7 to 10 bits of information at a time. Teeny tiny number, right? My
Mm-hmm.
phone number is 802-236-3146. What's my phone number?
802-232-3146. Did I
So you
get
got 6 out of 7, and that's not too bad.
it?
Most people won't even take a crack at it. And the reality is that, you're already filtering out that information as being non-vital to this conversation. And we're all doing that all the time. So in hypnosis, in the kind of work you do, in the neuromuscular and the neuro-linguistic work that I do, we're constantly looking at what is the filter, what is the frame through which you're seeing things, and how can you move it or shift it or make it bigger.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. That's so well put. And when somebody comes to you, I know you work with big groups, but when somebody's working with you one-on-one, like what's the progression? What's first step? Do you pick up a lot just in talking with them? Are you looking at life experiences? Because I know I find so many people have absolutely no conscious knowledge of why they're manifesting what they're manifesting in their lives.
Well,
How do you do
me,
the detective work, I guess is what I want to say.
The detective work is really not all that complicated because I'm pretty methodical, and I always say I'm not smart enough to make it complicated, so I try to do it simple. And so what I realize, and that we, us who are in the world of healing and helping, is that everybody has a place they want to go. Right? They've got a hope, a dream, a desire, maybe an image or a vision of where they want to go. That may be clear or may be fuzzy. So one of the first things I need to know is, do you have any idea of where you're trying to be? And are you in touch with the deeper inner self that maybe is creating that image? So in this first book, in On Hypnosis, we talk about step one is to discover your essence, right? Like, who am I?
I love that.
Stripped of our, our habitual thoughts, stripped of our roles. And, most people ask what they do, who they are, they whip out their business card. They only think they are their business, but that's just a small piece of who they are. Right. So who are you really? Who are you underneath all of the layers that have been placed on you, underneath the costume? And discovering that's important because it gives you a clearer understanding of whether the direction you're trying to head in is really the direction you're meant to head in, or is it just one that's been programmed into you?
Oh, yeah.
I really need to be a millionaire. It's really important that I'm a millionaire. Well, is it really? Is it really? I mean, is that something that somebody told you? I really need to be on stage. Well, do you really, or is that just, for me, I was a kid, I needed to be a doctor because, that's what I was programmed to want to be. It took me a long time to realize it wasn't exactly the right direction. It took me going to school and becoming a doctor and doing it for a number of years and realizing there was a nuance, there was a change that needed to happen. And as you said, every change comes with both, the embracing the new, but also having to let go of the old. So that, we get our feet stuck in the mud whenever we think about it. But the reality is, I needed to discover who I was at the core. And that meant, learning things like how to meditate, how to get quiet, how to observe the sensory pull of the things that made me sad or scared, or like you said, the dog story, if you're afraid of a dog, that's a signpost that tells you about something inside of you. Am I carrying a belief? So the first step is that. So for me, in answer to your question, the diagnostic process is, where are you going and do you know it's the right place for you? And then what's stopping you?
Beautiful. Right? And you know what? On that very point, I'm going to stop you because we've got to take a little break. And when we come back, let's do some talking about the tools that you use that help, once people know where they want to go and have an idea of what's stopping them. Let's talk about, how do you help them get there? What comes next? All right, we will be right back. Okay, and as I mentioned already to our Facebook listeners, Dr. Steve, we're not really going away. So I'm just going to bring this back and we're going to start our questions. However, I dropped an important piece of paper at some point along the way here that had some things I wanted to talk to you about. So give me 1 second to make sure I get that back. Okay. All right. You ready to go?
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy to be here. This is really fun.
Oh, good. Me too. Okay. Let me just get my clock going. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw. And with me today is Dr. Steve Taubman. If you are just joining us, you've got to listen to this show in its entirety when you get a minute, because we are talking about change your mind, change your life. So if you've ever wondered why you seem to keep experiencing the same things over and over, or you can't get that level of success you want, or the relationship you want, the happiness you want, there's probably something going on in your mind, your subconscious mind to be specific, that's blocking you. So, Dr. Steve was just talking about that and what he does when someone comes to work with him. And he uses a lot of different tools. So, Dr. Steve, tell us a bit about the tools you use and how do they work and how do they help?
I've got this really big hammer and a screwdriver, and it doesn't hurt too bad.
Those are good. That'll
Well,
get their attention anyway, won't it?
let me kind of lay out a principle or maybe a visual for us, and then I'll explain how this visual informs the work that we do.
Beautiful.
So, as you said, we need to become aware of and be able to change our beliefs. Now, I've got this concept of a pyramid, and I tried to draw a terrible picture here, but it's all scratchy point. But you see that little pyramid?
I see it.
Okay, so there are layers, right? So I say that at the very top are your results, what you want to accomplish in your life. And if you're a very unconscious person and you're not getting the results you want, you're just going to sit there feeling really bad about you're not getting your results, but you won't understand that your results are sitting on top of another layer. And if you don't deal with that layer, you're not going to get anywhere near new results. So if you're only empowered to see that your results aren't what you want, you're hopeless. Now, the next level down is actions. What are my actions? If I'm conscious enough to realize that I need to take certain actions in order to get the results I want. Well, what are those actions? And maybe at that level, I'm the kind of person who says, darn it, I'm going to start working harder. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to get up every morning early and I'm going to do my exercise. And then the next day you give it up because you don't have what's underneath actions, which are your beliefs, right? Because your beliefs support your actions. If your beliefs don't support your actions, you won't continue to act. But the actions that are founded on a set of beliefs. You mentioned the woman who who seemed to find herself in relationships with narcissistic men. I'm sure she's the only woman who's ever had that experience.
Yeah, only one or two out there.
I've heard that one before. It's unbelievable how often we find ourselves into self-sabotaging relationships in order to outpicture the various beliefs that support that. And so, of course, all of the actions that woman is taking unconsciously are leading to the result of being with that particular man. So she doesn't like the results, and she's coming to you saying, make these results go away. You're saying, no, we're going to have to talk about the actions. But before we talk about the actions, let's look at the underlying beliefs that are fueling those actions. How maybe you're sorting and how you're choosing one person versus another, and what you're listening to inside of your body to make you think that's an attractive guy. Right? Why do I tingle whenever I somehow find myself in front of a jerk? What's that all about?
Exactly, right.
So now that's one of the deepest levels, but it's not the deepest level. Okay, so beyond under beliefs is presence.
Presence.
Presence, Presence, presence.
Okay.
Capacity to get silent, the capacity to just sit and observe your own beliefs, because it's very hard to see your own beliefs.
Yes.
Right? Our beliefs to us are like water is to the fish. They're all around us. Wherever we turn, we're looking through them, but we don't see them because they are the very water in which we swim. Right? I don't see any beliefs, but they're constantly having their impact on us the way the water does on the fish. Yeah. And so what I do is I say that in order for you to develop the capacity to change your beliefs, you first need to learn how to get present let's say that these were a pair of sunglasses. And if I'm looking around me, wherever I look, what do I see? I see a world that's shaded by these sunglasses, right? So everything I see is through the lens of the sunglasses. So let's say these lenses are anxiety sunglasses. Everything makes me anxious, right? Everything makes me anxious. But if I want to change my experience, the first thing I need to do is this. And now
Right.
I'm not looking through anxiety, I'm looking at anxiety.
Ah,
I'm looking at my glasses. I'm also able to look at that picture and that lamp and those beautiful trees and the sun outside. They're all just they become object rather than subject. I'm not anxious. I just have anxiety.
yes. I think
Okay.
that's so important to separate our identity from our symptom or
Yes.
whatever we want to call that.
And that becomes that process of separating yourself is the recognition that I am not my anxiety, I'm not my thoughts, I am not my beliefs, I'm not my emotions, I am the witness, I am the assess the ability to be aware of, right? I am aware of being aware. And when I start
Mm.
re-identifying myself as being aware, then everything else becomes object. And
Hmm.
now I can observe it, and now I can start to explore the beliefs.
And it
And
feels
so,
to me like when a person can take that perspective, they're more empowered because if it's like, if this is who I am, there's that feeling of, well, I can't help who I am. But if this is what I'm experiencing, I can change my experience more easily. Is that
absolutely,
what you find?
100%. And there are processes that I use as part of this that create a more visceral experience of letting things go and putting them in
Mhm.
their proper place, so that we have more perspective. Because again, remember, we're looking through the world this way, and if we can
Right.
just do this, now it's like, well, now I'm a person, like I used to be, a pauper who wanted to be a king.
Hmm.
And then one day I realized I'm a king who thinks he's a pauper who wants to be a king.
That's right on the money. I love that.
So
Yeah,
then those things don't take on the same import, because
that's
you
right.
realize it's just this kind of little glitchy thing inside of you that has been trained or programmed
Mhm.
for whatever reason, based on whatever previous experience. And a lot of therapists think, I've got to go back and find the original triggering episode. And I don't think that's true. Now, sometimes it's helpful, but it's not necessary,
Hmm.
because a lot of work could be done somatically, meaning
Yes.
magically, when you do the work you do and somebody suddenly releases energy or tension in a particular muscle area, or is able to get a deep breath in, all of a sudden they then remember the thing that started the whole ball rolling. They
Right.
didn't remember it and then heal, they healed and then remembered.
Yes.
Right? I'm sure you've had that experience again and again, because we lock that stuff, we trap it into our physiology.
Hmm. And
So
I think a lot of people don't realize everything's energy, including our thoughts, our behaviors, our beliefs. It's all energy. And when we can learn ways to work with that energy and move that energy, we've really got a shot at change, right?
yeah, it only becomes useful. We only are able to really observe and let energy shift under our own awareness once we start letting go of the story. Because we get addicted to our story. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't get
Mhm.
any better because I keep on getting into better relationships.
Right.
Not able to, and then people shrink. So the outer world starts to push in on them, and all the experiences and the way they see those experiences shrinks in on them. They get smaller and smaller and smaller, and they've lost the will to like push it out, be like, oh, I think a big part of our healing is our willingness and our ability to embrace the uncomfortable,
Oh, totally.
right?
Absolutely.
So, and to recognize, see, this is the magic. The magic happens when you suddenly recognize that in facing something uncomfortable with a new point of view, it doesn't really have to any longer be uncomfortable. A lot of the discomfort is just the resistance to the thing itself.
Hmm.
Right? Get in an ice cold shower. I've been doing that lately. You get in the ice cold shower, and you're in a state of resistance. You're contracted, you're tense, you're fighting, you feel like you're in the wrong place and you want to run from it. And then
Uh-huh.
what you do is this, you go, okay, okay, maybe I could just get a little more comfortable with this. And what you start to do is to ease into that uncomfortable situation. And then you go to the advanced level, which is, this is okay. This is better than okay. This is really good for me. I feel great. Now, that shift from this is going to kill me to I feel great
Right.
seems like it's a million miles away, but
Hmm.
it isn't. It's really a shift in thinking that can happen in an instant. And I'll give you an example, if I may. Are we okay? I know,
Sure.
quick story. I'm doing a hypnosis show for a group of over 1,000 people in a school, and it's on the people are sitting in the bleachers in a gym, and the kids are being hypnotized on the floor of the gym. And I'm at the initial stages of the show, so they're going down, getting more and more relaxed, very deep, very slow, silent. And there's a janitor pushing a tray of metal folding chairs across the floor. Middle of the induction, falls over. 150 metal folding chairs hit the gym floor. Huge, noisy. Now, of course, at that moment, I could have said, I can't believe you just ruined my show and disturbed everybody who I'm trying to hypnotize. But instead, I said, and as you hear the sound, you go deeper. Right? And they did, because what do they know? We're all looking for cues. We're constantly telling ourselves, this is bad. Stay away from that. And we don't realize we're telling it to ourselves, but we're reinforcing the negative programming of our own subconscious mind. And so the subconscious mind says, awesome, this is bad. I'm going to make it feel nice and bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Steve, just in case somebody is not going to be able to be with us in our last segment, give them your contact information before we go to this break.
Quickest, easiest way to jump into my world is go to bestofsteve.com. And what that is, it's a landing page. It's Best of Steve. The beauty of that is not only will you get to join my mailing list, but you'll also get a free digital download of the first chapter of my newest book, Bulletproof, which is about being resilient.
Great. All right. And after this break, we will be back to learn more from Dr. Steve Taubman. We'll be right back.
Having fun?
I'm having a great time. How about you?
Yeah. Is this resonating with what you?
Oh my goodness, totally. I love the information you're giving. It's fabulous. Do you want to talk in this segment a little bit about the suggestion healing and the basic retraining?
Is this our last segment?
Yeah. Goes fast, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness, unbelievable.
I know.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a great idea. We could roll into that. In fact, let's roll into it by talking about, you had mentioned, the patterns of thought and like reframing the whole thing about people wearing masks, right? And and you mentioned something about helping to deal with it, getting help.
Yeah.
Do the work. I think that's a good place to kind of jump from.
Okay, perfect. And let's do it. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw and my guest today, Dr. Steve Taubman. We're talking about change your mind, change your life. And we've been talking about many ways that we perceive that have impact on the way our life is turning out, and those limiting thoughts, patterns, and beliefs that people are holding, mostly on a subconscious level, so they don't even realize they're holding them, and the ways that Dr. Steve works with people to help them shift to thinking that can really support what they want rather than what they don't want, right? So Dr. Steve, tell us a little bit more about that, because I think many people are manifesting in their life exactly what they don't want. They focus on what they don't want and they're manifesting that. How do you make that shift? How do you start getting what you want?
You need to educate people first. And you had said a little bit earlier, we're talking about the patterns of thought with the masks and why, it reminded me of an old movie and sci-fi kind of a movie, and that can easily create distress unless you reframe that, right? So you can reframe it. And as an educator, I would encourage you to take that experience and say, well, that was an interesting movie, and how cool is it that we're living in a time when we're like, it's almost like that movie's happening. How cool is that, right? So developing a real embracing of the experience, and any situation could be seen from an angle like that. So now what does that mean?
You're talking about shifting to a more positive way of viewing the situation, kind of like the cold shower that now you think makes you feel great rather than, oh God, it'll kill me.
Right. And the reality is that whether you think you can or you think you can't, it's right. It's true. Your physiology will cooperate with whatever you decide it's going to be. So now I'm working with a lot of people, and whether it be empowerment work, and all the work I do is the 3 S's: silence, symbolism, and scripting. So silence, we're teaching you to get quiet and discover your essence. Symbolism is like symbolically letting go of the old before you can embrace the new. Mm-hmm. Like, what are those blockages? What are those mental barriers? And can we identify them and then throw them away? Becoming present to them, feeling them, isolating them, putting them over here, and then eventually over there. And then scripting, now something like an affirmation or the proper use of questions becomes valuable where it wasn't before because you were in your own way, right?
Right.
Now that applies in our own well-being because people might think, well, boy, it might be good to get hypnotized so that I could quit smoking or lose weight or maybe feel more confident in my salesmanship or whatever. Those are all worth exploring. But do you know that that same set of subconscious beliefs are also influencing your physical well-being?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are literally
Right.
our subconscious mind is directing our autonomic nervous system, your sympathetic and your parasympathetic nervous system. What's going
Right.
on along your vagus nerve? Are you hyper stressed? Is the stress then causing an increase in the release of cortisol? Are your capillaries constricting? Are you manifesting illness because all you're doing is seeing the illness, right? So there's so many ways in which the subconscious mind has been trained and programmed to believe that you are this, you deserve this, you can't ever get past this, and
Right.
so therefore I'm going to give you this, right? And we are so, as you said initially, we are so uncomfortable with change that I'd rather be a sick person that I can count on
Yes.
than a person who's willing to like step out into the void, not having any idea how to be in the world without sickness.
Carolyn Mace said, I'll never forget it, in her book, people would rather die than change. And I think that's really true on so many levels.
I'm going to be working with a woman who is, really contracted in terms of her health and well-being with a variety of symptoms. And what I feel is that she needs a declaration of independence against the demons inside of her. She needs to be able to like expand beyond that and not feel like it's true. So, but I was mentioning something about the cold showers in one of my shows, and she heard it and she wrote to me. She said, "I hope you know you're not going to get me into a cold shower."
Putting
And
me on notice before
yeah,
she
yeah.
walks in the
So
office.
we're not at the complete state of surrender just yet, but it's what are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to challenge? As Buddha said, if you go where few have gone, you will find what few have found.
That's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And you feel too that an important piece, I mean, what you were saying in a prior segment, before you can really make significant change, there's got to be some inner work, like perhaps a meditation practice, perhaps Qigong, or something where people get quiet and give themselves time on the inner plane to get more aware of who they are and what they really desire. Correct?
Yeah, it's an energetic thing. It's without doing that, you don't really know what's going on inside. You also are
Yeah.
in a state of perpetual resistance to what's going on inside.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this thing called necessary strength, which is that if I'm uncomfortable, if I'm distracted, if I'm anxious, there's any emotion that's grabbing my attention, and then oh, I'm in pain, I better do this, or I'm scared, I better do that, or I'm angry at you, I better yell at you. So I'm being directed by all of that stuff. I don't have the necessary strength to bring myself right back to right here, right now, and to follow a set of perhaps a code of conduct. Like I want to be a good person, but there's a lot of people that who want to be good people, but they've got no strength to be able to keep themselves from falling into the abyss
Right.
and doing whatever they feel like reacting. So how do we stop reacting? Well, that's where meditation comes in, or as you said, qigong, or even getting in a cold shower. What happens is you're strengthening your focus muscles. You're strengthening your ability to be now. Even though there's this thing trying to pull at me, I'm not going to bite. Like I'm a fish in the water, and there's a lot of hooks being dropped in with worms, but I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to be pulled out of here. I'm going to stand my ground. And so that is a process. And if you don't go inside and have quiet time and be willing to sit, even if it may suck, it may be the most uncomfortable thing you've ever done,
Right.
it's still the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because you want your life back.
One of the things I've been working with in my own life is if I wake up and it often happens to me when I'm just waking up, I'll feel like it's either fear or it's anxiety or something. And so what I'm trying to do now is go with go to the feeling instead of shift and think about something else or whatever. I'm trying to just feel it in my body. And I'm not really sure why I'm doing that, but in your thinking, does that have value to just stay with it and
That's
feel it in your body?
Yeah, that was one of the most powerful tools for me to overcome anxiety, was the willingness to go into it, to explore it at the bodily level and at the level of
Yes.
sensation, because it's that again, resistance, that running from it, that keeps it going. That's why we become anxious about being anxious. And
Yes.
we know where that
Yes.
leads. It eventually leads to a panic attack because we're not facing it. And if I have time for a quick metaphor, uh,
Please.
the experience is one that is actually amenable to change in this way. I went to Disney World years ago, and at Epcot Center, they have this light show at night where there's this giant fountain, and the fountain sprays up a huge spray of water, 100 feet in the air, maybe 300 feet across, and that forms almost a screen. And then they project lights and colors onto that screen, and they play
Oh,
loud
wow.
music. And then they start projecting, all of a sudden it goes from lights, it goes into the Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse and the sorcerer. And it's a very scary, intense thing. And if you're a little kid, you probably want to run from it. You want to shrink from it. Like that's the anxiety in front of you. You want to shrink from it, right?
Right.
But if you were instead to walk towards it, what you would encounter is a spray of water, and it would have no physical substance to it whatsoever. And you would then walk right through to the other side of it, and it would literally disappear.
Yes.
And so when you feel anxiety in the morning, and I do too, by the way, then what you're doing is somewhere your projector is projecting something onto the screen of your consciousness that is creating the experience and energy of discomfort. And you're trying to run from it, doesn't work. But all of a sudden you're saying, okay, well, what is that? What does it feel like? What if
Yeah.
I get closer to it? Now it's just a bunch of little water droplets. It's no longer a big scary image.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
it's like, oh, now it's just, it's a little cold. That's where cold is cool. It's a little cold being in those water droplets. But if I keep walking, I come through the other side. It's almost like I fall out the other end.
Mm.
I can take a deep breath again. I get my breath back.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true in life because it's funny, like in a lot of the energy psychology tools I use, and in that field, we focus on the thing that's bothering you and work with that, either whether it's tapping or whatever it is. But you have to and the way I explain it to people is it's like if you're working on something on your computer, you're writing a piece and you don't like that sentence, you can hit the delete button, but nothing's going to happen until you highlight what you want to get rid of.
That's a
And
great metaphor. I'm going to steal that from you. Thank
oh,
you.
it's yours, done. Oh, and
No,
darn it.
that's brilliant. Yeah, exactly. In other words, you have to focus. You have to be there. What's that line? So you can't leave a place that you haven't been.
Yes,
Right?
I love that.
You have to go there and then leave there. You have to like embrace it. You have to get with it, and then you
Yes,
can leave there. If you spend all your time pushing it away, you're running from the experience into your head and trying to figure things out and do
right.
all this head work. Instead, you just get into it and make peace with it. It's like, oh, so this is what I've been running from all this time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, now that's why silent symbolism scripting. That's why it works the way it does.
I love that. And Dr. Steve, you are going to have to come back because
Okay.
somehow our time magically disappeared, like that sorcerer on the water stream.
Yeah.
But please tell everybody how to reach you if they would like to learn more about you or talk to you.
Well, if you're interested in motivation and inspiration and the whole idea of using this to break through, go see my website, stevetaubman.com, Steve, Taubman.com. If you want to start reading some of my free blogs and whatnot, do go to bestofsteve.com and just join my mailing list and get the free chapter of the book. And if you happen to be somebody who's interested in seeing how you can use your mind to heal your body, whether you're dealing with a stress-related illness or chronic pain or anxiety, if you want to see how to change that without drugs, without surgery, if you want to just learn how to reprogram yourself to be healthier and happier, go to suggestionhealing.com. Or the other thing you can do is just put a comment in this Facebook live stream, and then I think that Paula will probably let me know that you're interested, and we could set up a phone call and I'll tell you what I could do for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure having you on my show and sharing you with our listeners. And remember, we will be on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM, The Answer in San Diego, Sunday evenings with Dr. Steve's show. We're on every major podcast platform. And of course, you can hear all shows that we've ever done on Change It Up Radio on the website, changeitupradio.com. So thank you all for being with us. I thank you once again, Dr. Steve. This has been a great show. And again, we encourage any comments, questions, whatever in the chat on Facebook. And we will see you next week on Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. Bye-bye. Oh. All right. So we have finished the recording. Okay. So Dr. Steve, if there's anything else you'd like to say to the Facebook live stream viewers, we're still with them.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thanks for tuning in. It's always nice to have live folks here with us. I don't have access to a stream of comments or anything, but you're all welcome to write comments in, and I'll make sure to go back and look. And if you have a personal question, I'm more than happy to respond later. I always like to leave people with my one thought for the day, which is don't believe everything you think.
Oh, that's great. We'll put that in the show notes too.
And recognize again, if you're limited, if you're stuck, if you're unhappy, it's not you have the birthright for more. It's not your personal state as much as it might seem to be. There are tools, there are strategies to help you through that. So take hope in that and know that there are ways of moving through this, and it doesn't require that you only do talk therapy. It's really a question of changing your neurology. And as you change your neurology, lo and behold, you change at a deeper level.
So true. So true. And you're going to have to come back and talk about that some more too, because I think that's a very unique perspective and a really cool way of working with people. I too am a believer that talk only takes people so far. And then we have to give them tools and processes that help them actually shift their minds.
Well, Werner Erhard, the founder of Landmark and he used to say when people would go to therapy in order to understand their problem, he said, understanding is the booby prize. Right? Yeah, so I understand. Yeah. My mother was dysfunctional and my father was angry and I was in a dysfunctional family and I was bullied and, and all these things happen. Yeah, so now I know that. So what, now what? What do I do with it? How do I shift it? If that's all in my neurology, how do I change the neurology so that I'm not just sitting here feeling disempowered? And so those are the tools that Paula and I offer. And if you ever want to explore the possibility of a tag team therapy experience, I know Paula and I would have some fun working with you together.
Oh, absolutely.
That'd be cool.
It would be really cool. Hey, I'm already dreaming dreams of a podcast we do together, so we need to talk.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. Okay. Thank you to all our listeners, viewers. We will see you again soon, and I'll see you next week on Change It Up Radio. Bye-bye.